Hi, everyone. Darren Hunter here with the Outsourced PM podcast show. I'm with Michael Sanz, who is our outsourcing expert. And Michael, where are you right now? What are you doing?
I have been given a room by Qantas. I'm in their business lounge in a private, secluded room. They've told me it's noise proof and waiting to board a flight to go to London. Again, deja vu.
What are you going to London for? You're going to the other side of the world. What are you going to London for?
Yeah, so we've been helping many agencies over in the UK with their outsourcing needs. They're suffering from similar issues like in Australia, America, New Zealand with staffing shortages. They're needing help. They're trying to prevent staff burnout. They're trying to automate and streamline their processes. And I think that UK, New Zealand are so far behind where Australia is. We're coming in there and showing them how we can help, what we're doing. In fact, I mean, Darren, the UK is probably one of our biggest bases right now.
It is very exciting, and a lot of the UK people certainly, don't know a lot about virtual assistants too. So they are several years behind us in Australia. We are very advanced. There's still a lot of offices, of course, that fear using virtual assistants. That the ones that are now using virtual assistants just do nothing but rave about their experiences. So, Michael, let's talk about something. Now, firstly, we've got a massive property management crisis going on out there.
Huge.
COVID has certainly knocked out a lot of soldiers out of the army. And look, it certainly has been difficult, but I'm speaking to bosses, you're speaking to bosses. We're seeing them in our group IGT in a circle, complaining it's really hard to get experienced staff. The non-experienced ones are demanding crazy salaries, things like that. We have a genuine crisis, but with our current property managers still working in industry, there's so much burnout happening. And one of the big contributors to the burnout that so many bosses deliberately and intentionally allow is their property managers taking calls and doing emails after hours. They deliberately and intentionally allow. I know that's strong language, everybody, but let's think about it. You're a boss. Let's say you're running a sales agency. Property management needs to be looked after. You've paid your property managers well for them to handle the problems. Oh, and by the way, you still got to look after hours calls and emails, and because we don't have a proper system in place. We don't know how to deal with that. You're the only ones doing it. It's just the nature of the beast. Your name is go. And so we get this burnout, Michael. And so people, they come in enthusiastic, but after a while, the grind and the burnout and the non-life balance starts to hurt them. And then they leave and the boss goes, crap, I want to get back to sales. Got to go hire another property manager. Where are all the property managers gone? Well, maybe we need to start allowing property managers to not work after hours, to not take calls, to not have to do emails, and to completely switch off. Michael, how is that possible with virtual assistants?
It's funny with that introduction, Darren, because you touched on a few things also. And, we talk to a lot of clients where we're providing, full-time virtual assistants to them. And it's always that question at the end of it. So once we've gone over everything and said what we can do and how we can help, can you do Saturdays? Can you answer our phone on Saturdays? And, I also see too where agencies, they've got like a roaming mobile phone and they'll give that to alternating property managers.
Phone. Yeah, they're one, it's only okay. I've only have to look after the roster for one weekend a month.
Yeah, and they got the phone, it kind of sits on their hip, and if they go out for a drink, they've got to have it there in case of an emergency. I mean, Darren, for this year that passed, we actually did a 24/7 around the clock after our service for a couple of agencies, so that their staff could have that time off, because they appreciated that COVID's been difficult, and you can't keep asking your staff to do these extra activities and expect for them, one, not to be compensated for that time. I mean, even though they're not paid, the phone may not even ring, but it's like when a doctor's on call, right? Like, they can't do anything really. They're on call. They've got to go, and perform. So, and also too, Darren, like, we identified that most of our property inquiry calls came through after hours. A lot of our new business calls come through after hours. So we needed to make sure that we were able to answer the phone in certain time brackets. Yes, occasionally you'll get a call at 1 or 2 in the morning. Urgent situation.
But for me, even knowing that my phone could ring
Anxiety.
gave me burnout and anxiety. And I
Yeah.
had this blanket of anxiety on me all the time, like an erosion effect. And the only time it sort of went away was when I was on holidays. It took me a few days to get off the anxiety blanket. And then a few days before I'm due to come back, the anxiety blanket comes on, and I'm always walking in some sort of carrying some sort of burden of burnout and anxiety. And that's what erodes the mountain.
But Darren, it's also like some of these calls, they're not even maintenance calls after hours. People may call at 11 o'clock or 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning. Oh, yeah, I rent 1 Smith Street with you, and the lease is going to be coming up in 3 months. I just wanted to work out, what are my options? Like 3 in the morning. And you're like, mate, like, really?
Now, a good property manager shouldn't be taking those calls at 3 in the morning. And you know, we hear people saying, well, you don't answer your phone at that time. But at the end of the day, are your property managers able to walk away from the job at 5 or 5:30 and completely switch off, not have to think about property management to the next day? Because I'm a real believer that the property manager that can 100% switch off and recharge is the property manager the next day that can give 100% if they're able to switch off after 100% after hours. This is what we've got to do, people, if we're going to expand the lifespan and look after quality staff. We're actually saying, and we're interviewing, and we've got, say, a job, and we're trying to bring over an experienced quality property manager, and you say to them, hey, there's no emails and no phone calls after hours. We've got it all handled. I mean, what a point of difference that would be to get that person across, Michael.
Yeah, it's huge. But like we're saying, it solves anxiety. It means the person can rebound the next day without having to carry that stress over from a full call that came at 8 o'clock. Because Darren, if you had that phone and if you finished at 5 o'clock or 5:30, and if you got a call at 10 o'clock, that feels like you've been working through 5 through 10 because you're on call for that. One of the exercises that we do with our own office, with other clients, we try to understand what the call pattern is. So we ask people, you know, have you got the call data when the calls are coming into your office on your mobile phone or the office calls? So we can say, you know, okay, well, this is the type of setup and structure that you need for your after hours. Most of your after hour calls come between 5 and 8, right? And then you might need a roaming solution after that point in time. Also, I find by managing the expectations of the people that are calling your office after hours helps you with 60, 70, 80% of managing that call. So when they call, let's say there is a roaming mobile phone, that voicemail should be that this phone is not answered all the time. If this is an emergency, hang up and call 000. If this is, you know, a maintenance related matter that's not urgent, please make sure you visit the website for our maintenance and follow the steps, or, you know, whatever the rules are around that. So those calls that are coming in. Darren, we used to get a lot of our tenant inquiries coming through after 5 o'clock. So we had to make sure that, you know, we could, you know, people finish work, they're on the bus, on the train going home, looking at properties, they would call, email. We wanted to make sure we can book them in, show them the virtual tours, and have that catered. But did I want my staff, in-office staff, doing that after hours? No, because they've been like, you know, breaking their neck doing their work during the 9 to 5.
Yep.
They shouldn't have to. I mean, quantify the pay rate. If you're paying someone, you know, 20 or let's say $30 an hour, you're paying someone and they're doing an extra 5 hours and they're not getting paid for it. That's burnout. Like, that is just, there's going to be regret.
It turns into disillusionment. Disillusionment turns into resentment, and resentment turns into looking for another job and then moving. And then bosses are upset at all this staff turnover and having to pay how much to recruiters? How much are recruiters charging these days, Michael?
Yeah, like 10, 12, 13%.
I mean, it's thousands and thousands of dollars, and then they feel that by default, I'm just going to pay this money, but then they know about solutions, what we're talking about, and ignore it. And it costs so much less than the turnover costs to go find another quality property manager, which, by the way, you know, is probably going to be at some point where you're just not going to be able to get them anymore, unless you start ramping up the money.
A lot of them don't want to be working on Saturdays. A lot of them don't want the phone on Saturdays or Sundays. I mean, again, I implore officers that if you have someone, doing leasing, when they're rotating Saturdays, make sure you streamline and have videos and virtual tours. Don't make it hard for the staff you've got, right? If you're going to have someone on call like that, at least work with them and don't make it, archaic and dated. You've got so much technology in front of you. For us, Darren, let's go back to niche property. I made sure that our phone lines were extended, right? So that my team could log off, but my assistants could work through. One of the benefits of, being on the eastern state with Philippine time, my 5 o'clock was there, 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, depending on daylight savings. So for them kind of working through until my 8 o'clock really wasn't a big hurdle for them.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of the calls will come in, is in those evening times. It's really very rarely does it come in after that. Let's talk about officers right now that work with Teams by Design, property management agencies that have their phones switched over after hours. What, genuine issues have you had any real problems with your virtual assistants doing that?
You know what? Like we actually haven't had any critical issues after hours. There've been some doozies that have been there, but it's a case of we can either help them or we can't help them, right? So it's either urgent, not urgent. So either call 000 or this is the step, this is the triage. No one's going to be able to come out now. And then you get people saying, "Oh, I know my rights, urgent repair. I can pay for someone to come out." It's like, well, you can, but what's the problem? What's really the problem? Right? Like if I get a plumber to call you, they're going to speak to you over the phone and say, go to the mains up the front and turn the water off. Or go to the switchboard and turn off the fuses that are attached to the issue.
And if there's
they're not going to come out.
Your team records all these calls. The real issue that needs to get a property manager involved, the property manager can just simply listen to the phone recording, the actual conversation recording that's already in place.
Yeah, and that's handy for tradespeople too, right? Call comes through at 2 a.m, the person saying, this is my problem, this is this. We can get the call recording and send that through to the tradesperson so they can actually hear the actual call themselves, because the tradesperson is, all the tradie will do at that time of night is triage, right? What can I do to prevent having to come out now so I can come out tomorrow? Right? And, having Teams by Design there kind of helping with that, it has saved so many people's souls, I would say. Like I said, we had where we looked after an office 24/7 over Christmas time, and the calls were ranging from maintenance. And when people get home and they're relaxed, "Oh, Darren, did you call the agent about that flicking light switch?" "Oh no, I didn't today. I'll do it now." It's those things. And I've been speaking to the property manager, and they said they were going to send someone out to fix it. No problem. Let me grab the details. I'll take a look. Okay, I can see the tradesperson tried to call you, or there is a job logged in here. I'll trace it up for you, and we'll give you a call back in the morning to let you know what's happening. And we say this with new business. When people are calling your office, they want an answer. If they, they want to feel something has been resolved or they're satisfied. And if you can't give them that, their anxiety and frustration goes through the roof. I know my rights. You can't do this to me. Work with them. Set the expectations. It makes a world of difference.
And what sort of a difference has this made to the officers that have employed? What's some of the feedback that you're getting, with the changes that it's allowed them to do, or the freedom that they've got? Tell us about that.
I think, like, from a staff feedback here is like that level of anxiety has reduced. Wow. Because they're not having to deal with that extra layer of stress.
So they've actually effectively reduced the burnout factor.
Yeah, and then you get those, again, the people that are rotating the weekends. Like, some officers aren't having to do that anymore unless they've got showings. There are some officers, they would say you've got to work from 9 till 3 on the Saturday in the office when you're not doing your inspections. It's a waste of time. Like, if they've got showings to do them. Go home. Right? People don't need to come in the office and pay rent on a Saturday. It's not a unique selling difference. You're not going to win your business saying, "Oh, our office is open on Saturday, so your tenants can come pay rent."
It's not a difference anymore.
So it's work with. I had a conversation recently actually with a business owner and staff morale, and what could they be doing differently to kind of motivate their staff in this really, really bad COVID times. And it was letting the staff know to celebrate celebrate every day, celebrate their victories every day. Helping them with those repetitious, mundane tasks by not having to give them the stress overload of that. Because Darren, you've touched on it time and time again. Overload, burnout, staff leave, you're stuffed.
Absolutely. Or a lot of bosses just put up with this high staff turnover and all the awful costs involved. Yet it costs so much less to put in a solution like this and reduce this problem. But anyway, this has been a really good podcast, Michael. We've covered a lot of good points here. And again, all bosses out there, if you're serious about giving your staff a really good quality environment that they're happy to get up on a Monday morning and come to, and your staff turnover rates are so much less than the average agencies down the road, keeping in mind that it's now getting to a stage where a lot of offices are not able to employ quality property managers anymore. And so what's happening is that a lot of these bosses and a lot of sales bosses are now calling up rent roll brokers looking to sell their rent rolls because they simply cannot staff them. And you don't want to be one of those bosses. So you've got to make sure that you're reducing your burnout factor and providing an awesome environment for your high quality, experienced property managers to work in. So
100%. You're so right, Darren. So if we can help out in any way, and you want to have a chat with us, go to our website, teamsbydesign.com, contact us, drop in your information. We'll reach out and make a time to have a chat with you and see how we can help, even just do some troubleshooting with you.
And certainly the 30 property management tasks that you can outsource to virtual assistants and take off your team, those everyday mundane tasks. And these are the things, Michael, you did in your business of 650 properties. You managed it successfully with 1.5 staff on the ground, which is insane for that number of properties, because you had a trained team of virtual assistants. For that list of 30 property management tasks, just go to teamsbydesign.com. That's teamsbydesign.tasks.com, or just go to the teamsbydesign.com website, reach out to Michael. But Michael, great podcast, and thanks everyone.
See you later.